Okay, the last of this particular series of playlist introductions, so as we get to listen to the whole 100 years of music, the 20s. Now, not this 20s, it'd be interesting to compare when this 20s plays out, what the music's like compared to 100 years ago. But this is the music of the 20s, 1929 back through to 1920. Some awesome stuff going on here, and by now, if you've been listening all the way through, you've been quite challenged. There's been a bit of Bartok in there, and Plonk and all that type of stuff, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, and perhaps even explored other artists. I know I, for instance, got into Benjamin Britten by just putting on the best of Benjamin Britten on my phone as I walked, or did my walking. So therefore, hopefully this has expanded your desire to listen to a wide and varied choice of music. The 1920s, what was taken on in the 1920s? Well, in 1929 we had the Wall Street crash. Of course, this was the decade after World War I, and was probably perceived as a lucky decade in some respects, but it all went bad in 1929. September 1929 with the Wall Street crash. Other big events: 1927, Great Mississippi Flood, 700,000 people were displaced. So there was some bad stuff going on, and they knew about flooding in that area even back in 1927. 1926, Route 66, Chicago through to Los Angeles opened. Such an iconic route. It was, as you would have known from these from these little videos that we've been doing. It was also closed later, but it was such an iconic part of that American music culture thing, the whole Route 66. I always think about the Stones, unfortunately, but people probably have other bands that they really want. Why unfortunate on the Stones anyway? What an amazing band. But you get to listen to them in the 70s. We are thinking about the 20s. Okay. 500,000 people were affected by those 500,000 people, or 500,000 people, affected by Louisiana floods on the 29th of April, 1922. 1920, there was an awful earthquake, sometimes referred to as the Gansu earthquake or Hoyan earthquake. 250,000 people. At 8.5 on the Richter scale, December the 16th. So we are getting a little bit better at dealing with our disasters, international or worldwide disasters, because of the planet's movements and breathing, if you will. Like earthquakes are a natural thing, and they're all part of plate movement. So we're getting better at dealing with it, but still lots of people can get hurt in these things, and it just shows us how small we are as a species, really. 1920, Alexander Turnbull Library is opened in Wellington. 28th of June 1920. That's a pretty cool thing. I've actually been involved in performances down in there. That's pretty cool. Alexander Turnbull Library, 1920 in Wellington, New Zealand. 1928, the Vogue Order is invented. 1928, wow. I wonder if Peter Frampton knew that from the 70s. The Vogue Order went on to a lot of technology around voice recording and voice manipulation. So that's quite a biggie. And also magnetic tape, invented in 1928. Another invention in 1928, far bigger on the world scale, penicillin. Now you have a thing, is there anyone here? Penicillin, invented by Alexander Fleming. But is there anybody here that hasn't had a major problem solved by a few anti-bees? We take it for granted now, but you think of what it was like before those drugs were around to solve infections. Very impressive drug. 1925, the first television transmission. I'll try that again. 1925 was the first television transmission. or transmitter, sorry. 1925 was the first television transmitter developed by John Luigi Baird in the UK, 26th of January. So 26th of January, the first television transmitter, 1925. Also in 1925, the Victrola phonograph. So this brought music to more people. This meant music could be in your lounge room rather than in the concert hall. 1928, the Mickey Mouse appeared for the first time in Steamboat Willie. 1928. Alright, that's a long time for the whole Disney thing to be generating. 1925, Phantom of the Opera. Now this was actually a silent horror movie based on a book from 1910, I think, yes. A novel by the 1910, and the first time we approached it was 1925 as a silent horror movie. And of course, we have Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera as the most famous one, with some amazing singing, and I remember going to that in Melbourne in the 90s. Interesting how things keep just coming back, isn't it? It was a great story, the Phantom of the Opera, and that's probably had a lot to do with it. Great stories keep being told. 1922, the BBC is formed, and it is funded by a post office licence, 10 shillings. That's the birth of the BBC in 1922. Wow, they've done a lot since then. 1926, actually 1922 now, when you think about it, and a couple of years from now, that'll be their 100 years. I wonder what will take place. That'll be interesting to watch out for. 1926. Robert Hutchin Goddard launches the first rocket, the first fueled rocket, or liquid fueled rocket. So that is our first fledgling attempt at the stars. Anyway, I want you to really enjoy this particular playlist. I hope you've enjoyed the entire 100 years, and I hope you've had time to listen to it. I personally enjoy going back through these lists on my walks and just getting immersed in different decades and thinking about what's been taking place at the time that these songs, compositions, recordings were taking place. Okay, enjoy. Thank you very much for your time.